Good evening, I'm Regina Lay.
And I'm Pauline Verzosa.
The big stories tonight. President Marcos has issued an executive order creating the Independent Commission for Infrastructure that will probe anomalies in state-funded projects and giving it sweeping powers.
And Senator Ping Lacson exposes another insertion in the 2025 budget, this time allegedly made at the Senate or BICAM level. The new communications chief for the lower house, Ace Barbers, insists they weren't aware of these when they passed the budget last year.
And the Philippines is filing a formal diplomatic protest to reject China's plan to set up a national nature reserve on Bajo de Masinloc or Scarborough Shoal.
Open and shut case ang mga ito. Nakita naman natin yung lantarang pagpapakita nitong mga taong to nung ninakaw nilang pera sa taong bayan. Hindi namin kayo titigilan.
New Public Works Secretary Vince Dizon has formally filed cases against DPWH officials and contractors involved in the flood control mess.
And among them is embattled former Bulacan DPWH Assistant District Engineer Bryce Hernandez. News 5 also went to take a look at some of his expensive properties that apparently were not just funded by his 70,000 peso monthly salary. Mobile journalist Julie Baiza with tonight's big story.
Public Works Secretary Vince Dizon personally went to the office of the Ombudsman today to file complaints against 4 contractors and 20 former DPWH employees involved in anomalous flood control projects. Included in the charge sheet are the so-called Bulacan Group of Contractor or BGC Boys, former District Engineers Henry Alcantara, Bryce Hernandez, and JP Mendoza, as well as Sims Construction, Wow Builders, IM Construction, and the Discaya family's St. Timothy Construction. The complaints were graft and malversation of public funds, which are non-bailable and if proven guilty, could amount to a penalty of reclusion perpetua or a lifetime in jail.
Open and shut case ang mga ito. Ibig sabihin, madali po itong mag-establish ng probable cause. Naniniwala kami na madaling i-establish ang probable cause. At dahil doon, mabilis na ma-file at mabilis din makakadesisyon ang ating mga korte.
The Ombudsman will now conduct preliminary investigation. If it finds probable cause in filing the cases against the accused, it will then elevate the matter to the Sandigan Bayan. Senator Ping Lacson admits he pushed for the filing of cases against the infamous BGC Boys so that the Anti-Money Laundering Councilor AMLAC can freeze their bank accounts and assets immediately. As for the politicians implicated, Dizon says he is putting this into the hands of the Independent Commission for Infrastructure Malacanang is forming.
Hindi namin kayo titigilan. The people deserve justice. Pera ng tao to. Nakita naman natin yung lantarang pagpapakita nitong mga taong to nung ninakaw nilang pera sa taong bayan.
On top of the charges, Dizon also asked for an immigration lookout bulletin order to be issued against former DPWH Secretary Manny Bunoan, Candaba Mayor Rene Magalong, and officials of MBB Global who Senator Lacson accused of conniving over substandard projects in Bulacan as well. Meanwhile, News 5 took a closer look at some of the properties of embattled DPWH Bulacan engineer Bryce Hernandez. Among his prized possessions, a 2023 Urus Performante sports car worth 29 million pesos, a Patek Philippe watch worth 6.5 million pesos, and a Audemars Piguet watch worth 1.2 million pesos. Hernandez became Assistant District Engineer in 2022 and became officer in charge of the District Engineering Office just this year. His appointments were signed by resigned DPWH Secretary Manny Bunoan. As DE, he admitted under oath his salary was only 70,000 pesos per month. During the hearings, it also came up that Hernandez allegedly used a fake license under the name of Marvin Santos de Guzman to enter the casinos. News 5 went to the address in the license, but residents said there's no one living there under that name. The address itself, they said, was also old. News 5 also went to the address in the yearbook posted by Senator Jingoy Estrada, and this is what we saw. High fences, and although we can see what's inside, anyone can tell it's a white property. Off camera, News 5 was actually allowed to step inside, and the residents here confirmed it's where Hernandez has lived for a long time. They also insisted he has no bad record. They say he was even Hermano Mayor in their town fiesta just last March, as if that were proof of innocence.
Simula po, bata pa lang po ay nakikita na rin po siya dito at ayun nga po, naglalaro-laro na rin po siya dito.
Pero totoo ba na may pagkamaluho ba? Paano?
Wala naman.
Ha?
Wala, hindi naman maluho yun.
Hernandez has explained away the luxury cars by saying they were his wife's, but even that is a bit murky, as he said his wife was also a government employee and used to be with GSIS. He also claims the hundreds of millions of pesos they lost at the casinos all came from his boss, Henry Alcantara. For now, Hernandez remains detained at the Pasay City Jail after a tussle between the Senate and lower house over his custody. His lawyer has filed a writ of amparo at the Pasay Regional Trial Court, citing serious active threats to his safety. A writ of amparo is a judicial remedy that protects an individual's right to life, liberty, and security.
President Bongbong Marcos Jr. has formally created the Independent Commission on Infrastructure. Through Executive Order 94, the ICI is tasked to investigate and undertake appropriate measures against government officials, employees, and individuals involved in irregularities in government infrastructure projects. The commission will be composed of a chairperson and 2 members, all of whom should be persons of proven competence, integrity, and independence. The scope of the ICI's investigation will not only focus on the irregularities uncovered by the Marcos administration, but also other infrastructure projects within the last 10 years or those implemented during the terms of the late ex-President Noynoy Aquino and ex-President Rodrigo Duterte. As part of its mandate, the ICI can recommend the filing of appropriate criminal, civil, and administrative cases against those accountable before the Office of the President, Office of the Ombudsman, Department of Justice, and the Civil Service Commission. The ICI can also conduct hearings, take testimonies, and receive, gather, review, and evaluate evidence, reports, and information. It can also issue subpoenas for witnesses and documents, as well as recommend the admission of state witnesses to the Justice Department. The Commission can also obtain bank statements, records, contracts, and other documents pertaining to its investigation, request the issuance of whole departure orders, recommend to freeze or seize assets, and recommend the preventive suspension or administrative disciplinary action on government officials. The ICI is required to provide monthly reports to the Office of the President and to publish its accomplishments and other relevant reports. The members have not been announced. Meantime, a contractor was caught allegedly delivering kickback or commission right inside the Senate premises as recent as last month. This was bared by Senator Ping Lacson at a press conference today. He says his team has obtained CCTV footage of a staff member for WJ Construction named Mina visiting the Senate on August 19. He did not disclose which office this Mina went to. But recall that it was former Bulacan 1st District Assistant Engineer Bryce Hernandez who first said that a certain WJ Construction staff delivered supposed kickbacks to a certain staffer named Beng Ramos, allegedly linked to Senator Jinggoy Estrada.
Yung pupurso namin yung sa WJ, yung lumabas sa pagdinig na allegation ni Bryce Hernandez na di umano, yung WJ magdadala o magdi-deliver ng obligasyon. Pag sinabing obligasyon, ito na nga yung lagay, di ba? Again, as we speak, meron kaming video footage ng CCTV footage na dumalaw dito talaga yung WJ. Ang pangalan niya Mina, no? Although may idea kami kung saan siya nagpunta rito, kaninong opisina ang dinalaw niya. Pero ipapatawag namin para malaman natin kung kanino siya nagpunta.
As for the Discayas, the newly appointed Blue Ribbon Chair said they are still studying whether Sara and Curly can qualify as state witnesses.
Kasi nag-retract sila eh. Pagdating sa House, iba naman ang sinasabi. So how can they qualify kung hindi definite yung kanilang testimonya? Pag nasa House, iba sinasabi. Pag naandito, iba. Kung merong magpa-fact check sa inyo, magagaling kayo mag-fact check, at merong kulang at meron silang inumit doon sa kanilang testimonya, pwede hindi sila pumasa as a state witness. No? Kasi ang isang diyan, of course, pwede silang pumasok, possible, pero hindi tayo sigurado. Doon sa not the most guilty. Second, yung materiality ng kanilang testimonya na kayang i-corroborate ng independent evidence. Yun yung mga patakaran eh. So kung meron silang tinatago,
But the big reveal of today was that Lacson says they have found at least 355 million pesos in budget insertions for flood projects in Bulacan that appeared to match what Bryce Hernandez said. Hernandez claimed that it was Senator Estrada who is behind this and that the lawmaker took 30% as SOP. Lacson says it is very clear this money was inserted only either during the Senate or the Bicameral Conference Committee part of the process.
So pinacheck ko agad sa General Appropriations Act kung meron bang insertion na nagkakahalaga ng 355 million pesos na intended para sa Bulacan. And we found one. Meron talaga insertion na wala sa House version pero lumabas ito do sa after Bicam. So maliwanag na either sa Senate version or sa Bicam yun na insert. We would like to find out kasi alam nyo naman yung kalakaran sa budget deliberation dito. Hindi mo pwedeng matukoy. Ito nga yung lagi kong pinaglalaban na identify natin kung sino yung proponents ng mga amendments. And we went further, meron ng 5 projects identified na na-award na, no? Out of the 355 million. Now, my team or my teams are checking kung ano yung status ng mga at least 5 projects na yon na hindi pa namin alam yung amount.
The Blue Ribbon Committee will continue its motu proprio inquiry on anomalous flood control deals next week, September 18. Now, over at the lower house, former Congressman Ace Barbers, who has been appointed Chief Communications Officer for the House of Representatives, quashed all talk that there could be a leadership change soon. The rumors had been swirling for several days now and peaked late yesterday afternoon when several party leaders were seen entering Speaker Martin Romualdez's chambers. Later on, we found out that the leaders of Lakas CMD, PFP, NUP, NPC, Nacionalista, and Party List Foundation attended the meeting. Barber said that it's, quote, all just noise and that the overwhelming majority of lawmakers are still behind Romualdez. But earlier on our sister program StoryCon, he also admitted it's true that there were some members who wanted the speaker ousted.
We cannot deny na merong talagang may gustong magkaroon ng palitan, no? At gumagawa ng kwento at gumagawa ng intriga, no? Para ma-achieve nila yung gusto nilang ma-achieve. But until such time that itong intriga ito ay masubstantiate ng tamang ebidensya, siguro doon pa maniniwala ang mayorya ng membro ng Kongreso at magkakaroon na siguro ng change.
We also pressed Barbers about the notorious insertions in the 2025 budget and how these got past the House and Bicam members. At first, Barber said he wasn't aware of them, including code words for insertions that were brought up during the hearings, such as parking and sagasa. But later in the interview, he backtracked and admitted they had known about the insertions but are just trying to find out who the proponents are. Take a listen to this exchange.
Wala akong naririnig na sagasa at saka parking and all these things. And get down to the bottom of this. Ako honestly, Ed, wala kaming idea. It's just that when these issues of projects, insertions, billions of money, billions of pesos being downloaded to one province, one district. Teka muna, parang nakakalungkot naman yun. Yung aming mga priority projects sa distrito na ipinangako natin sa taong bayan, dun sa aming mga kanya-kanyang distrito, hindi nabibigyan ng pondo. Pero yung mga hindi naman na kailangan, minsan napupondohan.
If we take an example, for instance, specifically Oriental Mindoro, which we have been looking into, pag tinignan mo yung NEP versus the GAA between 2024 and 2025, it really ballooned, right? So, for instance, 2024 NEP was 1.7 billion only, GAA naging 4.3. Okay, fine. A couple of billion difference. Pero nung 2025, naging 14 billion. Tapos sa GAA, naging 13 billion. So that's a massive jump. My question there is accountability, right? Okay, fine. Let's assume nobody knew about it. But when it got to you, who do we hold accountable here, right? Nandiyan na kasi yung numbers, nandiyan na yung line items. All that's left for HOR to do at this point is to expose sino ba yung mga proponents nito, who asked for what, right? So that's the only way we can get to the bottom of this.
That's correct. That's correct. And I absolutely agree with you, Regina. In fact, I did not say that hindi natin alam what's going on. Alam naman natin na nagkaroon ng ganyan. But the question is, sino dapat ang responsible sa paggawa nito? Hindi nga natin makita pa sa ngayon. And I'm sure in the next coming hearings, maybe lumabas ito.
Okay, let's dive into this a little bit more. Tonight we're talking to Baguio City Mayor Benji Magalong. Good evening, Mayor. Thanks for joining us again.
Good evening, Regina. Good evening, Pauline. Good evening to all viewers.
Okay, Mayor, first off, can I have you react to that last clip that we ran? Former Congressman Ace Barbers, who's now representing the House as Chief Communications Officer, essentially saying they weren't aware of these insertions. Ngayon lang nila nadidiscover how deep the problem goes, billions being downloaded to just one district, terms like sagasa or and parking or parada. What do you think?
Well, alam mo naman, kaibigan natin yan si Congressman Ace Barbers. Probably, now that he's occupying a new position, he has no knowledge about it. Pero, alam mo yan, dyan sa BICAM, dyan naman talaga nag-uumpisa lahat. In fact, I came up with this sometime in March when I mentioned about the small BICAM. Wherein about 3 or 4 people actually, manipulated the GAA. Unfortunately, it was not picked up by the media. Pero I mentioned that before because the information actually came from a very reliable source. After the BICAM, nagkaroon pa ng small BICAM. At doon nagkaroon ng allegedly yung manipulation talaga, yung kaya nga tawag namin doon, the mangling or the massacre of the 2025 GAA fund.
Oh nga, sir, it keeps coming back to the small committee, and you and Congressman Tubi Tiangco have been the most vocal about it. Problem is, Congressman Barber says there is no minutes of the small committee meeting, right? It's a small committee. It's a group of 4 people: the APRO chair, the vice chair, the minority leader, the majority leader, and there's no meeting minutes. So where do we go from here?
Yung nga yung problema doon, ano? There's no minutes. Kaya nga ngayon, ang effort ngayon nila ng Senate is every time there's a BICAM or, for example, whatsoever, whatever it becomes a small BICAM, then there should always be a minute para malaman natin kung sino talaga yung accountable doon. Who is doing the insertions and has to justify kung sakaling meron siyang insertion doon. And that's the new move now of the Senate leadership.
Mayor, speaking of the BICAM, today si Senator Ping Lacson did reveal na meron nga silang nakitang 355 million pesos of insertion, but it looks like napasok po siya at the BICAM or sa Senate, and it does match what Bryce Hernandez said before the House na si Senator Jinggoy Estrada ang mukhang proponent nito. Does that lend credibility to Bryce Hernandez because mukhang nagmamatch nga yung mga revelations?
Well, kailang pag-aralan kung ano yung mga revelations niya, evaluate lahat. You have to validate it. Kailangan din ng corroborative statements. Pero yun ang pinakamahirap, yung mga corroborative evidence. And most of the time kasi, yung ebidensya natin dito ay usually testimonial. So I leave it to the Senate to really, determine talaga kung how credible is the revelation of Engineer Bryce.
And Mayor, as Regina mentioned, you were one of the first who really sounded the alarm on these flood control anomalies. But since then, have you discovered other patterns of corruption? May mga lumapit po ba sa inyo? And this money laundering scheme ng BGC Boys, have you heard of that even prior to what they said in the House hearing?
Well, ako, nababalitaan ko na talaga yung tungkol sa pagpunta nila sa casino. Alam mo kasi, I'm a graduate of the anti-money laundering na training. At ito sa pinakamagandang method or, way of laundering the money is, through the casino. And most of the time, kakaroon ng loss ng mga 8% to 10%. Pero at least nalabhan na yung pera dyan.
And Mayor, itong independent commission, so na-announce na nga po that there will be 3 members, a chairperson, and 2 others. What do you make of that? And will you be helping this commission with their investigation?
Yes, definitely. I won't be a member of the commission. I'm not allowed being an elected official. Kaya hindi ako pwedeng maging commissioner dyan. No? But I was asked to help in the aspect of investigation.
So you were asked to be informally part of it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
Admitted.
Go on, Mayor. In what capacity? Advising lang.
Yes, as an advisor.
Okay. Sino yung chairperson, Mayor?
I'm not yet aware kung hintayin natin yung announcement ni Presidente.
Oo nga, sorry for being nosy. We're hearing some names but no confirmation as yet.
But looking at names and knowing the the candidates,
Yeah.
I think everyone, all the three that were mentioned, are very credible.
Yeah. I want to come back to the yung problem with the insertions. So now the House is looking into major reforms, opening the BICAM process, inviting at least 19 CSOs, civil society organization, and then na-abolish na nga yung small committee. Are all these enough? What do you think?
Well, they are compelled to do that to, regain their credibility. Kailangan nilang gawin ngayon yun, and they have to be very transparent. Marami pa. Dapat marami pa silang dapat gawin yan. Unang-una, hindi naman pwedeng porket ginawa na nila yan. Okay na lahat. Ang balikan, kumbaga ground zero lahat. Hindi pwede. May accountability. So kailangan magdusa talaga yung may kasalanan. Balikan pa rin yung kasalanan. That's the reason why talaga kailangan talaga i-pursue yung investigation to make sure na without fear or favor. Kailangan panagutin kung sino yung mga politiko, especially the funders who are actually behind these flood control projects and all the other infrastructure projects.
What do you want to see? Who do you want to get called to the hearings?
Well, gusto ko sana makita si Congressman Saldico na matawag dyan sa hearing at mag-appear siya dyan sa mga hearings na yan. Explain it.
And these you actually were quoted on the Inquirer as saying that you thought the Senate hearings were more credible. Is that right? Why do you think so?
Well, makikita mo naman yung the way they propound their questions and at the same time looking at the personality. Especially now that it will be headed by Senator Lacson, and that adds credibility again to the hearing.
Actually, Mayor, based dun sa hearings, it was the Discayas who tagged or made mention of Speaker Romualdez and Congressman Zaldico as being part of this. Pero pagpunta nila sa House, parang they retracted what they said, or he said he doesn't have, Curly Discaya said he doesn't have direct link to the Speaker. What do you make of that, Mayor? Parang may inconsistencies kasi. And do you think they should be qualified as state witnesses?
Well, they can always qualify. What I mean is they have to undergo the process for them to be able to be determined as a state witness. Kailangan dumaan sila sa proseso na yan. They will be charged, they will be evaluated, and they have to be considered as the least most guilty. Yan ang dapat na establish. Second is, syempre naman, ikaw ba naman pupunta ka doon sa House na alam mo naman na matindi yung opposition dyan. Para kang pinuputakti dyan. Siyempre, medyo kung yung buntot mo dyan. Ganon siguro nangyari dyan kay Discaya. Kaya siguro matras siya o kaya nag-recant, some sort of recant yung kanyang statement. Pero as I've said, during malalaman mo kasi, I'm an investigator, malalaman mo kasi kung yung through the body language, yung statement analysis, the way they speak, malalaman mo agad na doon during the Senate, freely, he was not under duress, kaya siguro nakapagsabi, nalapas niya lahat. Pero doon sa House, siyempre, under duress niya doon, lahat na nakatingin na sa kanya. At nakikita niya siguro, ito binigyan ko. Ang dami pala sila ditong binigyan ko. Tapos ngayon, nagtatanong sa kanya, kaya na, ino-observan siya, yun na mahirap doon.
So you're saying, Mayor,
Meron pa daw eh. It's not just the ones that he exposed.
Yeah.
But
naman,
at the same time, everyone's vehemently denied it.
well, yung nga yung pinakamahirap doon, can you just imagine, you're in front of these people na binigyan mo, tapos they're looking at you, how do you feel? Diba? you're threatened, and tapos siguro iniisip rin niya, siguro nalilito siya. No? Siguro naiisip niya, napaka-hypocrite naman itong mga tao na. I can just imagine yung atmosphere during the time na nag-testify siya sa House.
So you're saying, Mayor, based on the demeanor of these resource persons, lalo na yung mga Diskaya, parang intimidated sila? Kaya ba parang there was a point, diba, where Congressman Shell Diokno was asking Curly na ba't hindi niya naiintindihan, parang Bisaya daw siya, but he's been living in Pasig for 25 years already, so dapat marunong siya magtagalog.
Marunong naman talaga siya magtagalog. Yan, si Diskaya. Marunong sila magtagalog. And siguro, yan, you got the right word. Intimidated sila. Marami nagsasabi na they're not credible witnesses kasi nga criminal sila. Even a criminal can be a credible witness. Marami nang nag-pursue ng mga kaso na ang nag-testify doon are the criminals themselves. They turn witness.
But at the same time, Mayor, si Secretary Vince Dizon, sabi niya, hindi daw dapat maging state witness itong mga Diskaya because they can be considered as one of the most guilty, in fact, in this highly coordinated crime.
Kaya nga, kailangan talagang dumaan sa tamang proseso for them to be able to really identify or determine as qualified for to be state witness. Kailangan talaga dumaan sa proseso. Hindi basta patanao, one lang, unilateral na, pwede ka na mag-state witness. Hindi pwede yan.
What about the testimonies of the district engineers? Now it's Henry Alcantara versus Bryce Hernandez and JP Mendoza. So naging he said because they're giving conflicting answers. Sino dun ang mas credible sa inyo?
My word against his word, yan. Ako, kung titignan ko, siguro mas credible yung binabanggit ni Bryce. From a very personal point of view, Because being an investigator, I always look at the statement analysis, and at the same time, I look at the body language.
What about his statements seemed legitimate to you? What lined up with your investigation?
Well, siguro yung mga binabanggit niya tungkol doon sa pera, tungkol din sa involvement ng kanyang boss. Yan, very fluid naman yung pagkakadeliver niya doon. Pero siyempre, nung pagdating na doon sa kanya, napapansin niyo ba na pag pinag-uusapan na yung about what he did, nakita niyo na bigla siyang konti-konti lang, aalis na kagad siya doon sa issue na yon. As much as possible, gusto niya mawala kagad, then he becomes very, very detailed sa ibang mga revelations niya.
Yes, correct.
Those are signs of deception, and at the same time, those are signs of being he feels guilty about it, kaya ayaw niya pag-usapan.
Oh, so in a way, he's also giving just half truths, right?
Yes. Okay, may signs of deception pa rin. May signs of deception. I'm not saying that he's lying, but I can sense some signs of deception.
Okay, last question, Mayor. Sorry, we're running out of time, but I have to ask you this. I don't know if you've seen online. There is some backlash on you as well. Some people are saying that you shouldn't be part of the independent commission kasi biased ka daw. Your views are politically colored. And then even former Senator Trillanes has questioned your silence on the Benguet billion peso rock netting scam. What is your response to all of this?
Alam mo, sagutin ko muna yung kay former Senator Trillanes. Unang-una, inumpisahan ko yung rock netting scam na yan as early as 2021. Kaya hindi niya pwede at tuloy-tuloy ako dyan. Very consistent ako dyan tungkol dyan sa rock netting na yan. Kaya hindi niya pwede sabihin na pinapabuyahan ko dyan. Isa rito nagsisinungaling sa amin, pero siguradong hindi ako dyan. Pangalawa, tungkol doon kay Saldico. Well, wala na siyang ibang masabi, kaya siguro gumagawa na lang siya ng istorya na gano'n just to justify himself. At the end of the day, tingnan natin kung sino nagsisinungaling sa amin. Kaya nga ayaw nila akong palabasin dyan sa house, hindi ko rin alam. Tawagin nyo na lang ako dyan sa house siguro, tapos siguro doon dyan kami magkita.
Online, there's a narrative of you as being painted as DDS daw, Mayor. Is that fair?
Alam mo dito, doing what is right. Simply doing what is right. And that's actually my focus. To do what is right. And I'm focusing on the issues at hand. That's nothing to do with politics, kaya huwag na pong dagdagan pa na kung ano-ano yan. That's nothing to do with politics.
Okay, we'll leave that there. Thank you so much for talking to us tonight, Baguio City Mayor Benji Magalong. Thank you, sir.
All right, we're just going to take a quick break, but coming up on the big story, China is creating a nature reserve on Scarborough Shoal that has the DFA up in arms. We sit down with Navy spokesperson for the West Philippine Sea, Rear Admiral Roy Vincent Trinidad, when the big story returns. Keep it here.
Welcome back. You're watching Big Story on One News. In other news, the National Security Council has rejected China's plan to establish a national nature reserve at Bajo de Masinloc or Scarborough Shoal. China's government approved this on Wednesday, calling it the Huangyan Tao National Nature Reserve. Huangyan Island is what they call Scarborough Shoal. Covering more than 3,500 hectares, the reserve will focus on conserving the area's coral reef ecosystem, at least according to state-linked news outlet China Daily. In a statement, National Security Advisor Eduardo Año called it unpatently illegal and violates UNCLOS, the 2016 Arbitral Award, and the 2022 Declaration on the Conduct of Parties. Año went on to say that this is a, quote, clear pretext towards eventual occupation. The DFA has said it will file a formal diplomatic protest, and the NSC says it fully supports this. All right, let's now talk more about this. We've got with us tonight Philippine Navy spokesman for the West Philippine Sea, Rear Admiral Roy Vincent Trinidad. Good evening, sir. Thanks for coming all the way here.
Good evening, Regina. Good evening, Pauline.
Okay, let's talk about this National Nature Reserve. How serious is this? China building a nature reserve over Scarborough Shoal, Bajo de Masinloc, which is, of course, within the Philippines' exclusive economic zone.
If we look at it as it is when they stated that statement, when they gave it out, people might be surprised, they might be scared or confused. But if you look at the historical context of what I refer always to the Chinese Communist Party. They have a lot of trust deficit, as our SND mentioned. They are not a reliable partner when it comes to discussions. Let's go back in history and we will see that they are full of giving out false statements, wrong narratives, if only to advance their objective. This is part of their lawfare, using selectively international law. If it is advantageous to them, they would adapt it, abide by it. If it is not to their advantage, they will reject it or question it. In 2012, we apprehended a lot of Chinese fishermen harvesting giant clams.
We have a picture of that.
In Scarborough Shoal.
We dug up courtesy of the Navy, courtesy of your team.
And I mean, it's
there.
illegal.
We're showing that picture of
It's illegal to harvest giant clams.
2012 yun, sir.
2012.
Okay.
And that was actually the prelude to the Scarborough standoff. But what happened there was, we noticed a lot of Chinese fishermen harvesting giant clams. And we accosted them, we confronted them. Now, come 2025, they would establish a nature reserve, when in fact they are the #1 violators of the environment, of international law, when it comes to Scarborough Shoal. Secondly, the Arbitral Tribunal already debunked any claims, any maritime claims of the 9-dash line. Now they're again giving out that statement. Thirdly, in 2021, they announced the Coast Guard law, January 2021. 2022, by February, they said they would start enforcing it. They never enforced it. But they gave out the statement about the Coast Guard law in all maritime areas under the sovereignty of China. So this is part of the lawfare, of the information warfare. And we could not discount the fact that they may be addressing their internal audience to prop up the Chinese Communist Party, to stir up a sense of nationalism. Why? Because of what happened last August 11.
But sir, at the same time, you have National Security Advisor Eduardo Año saying that this move is a clear pretext towards eventual occupation.
Yes.
Do you agree with that?
We have to understand that the objective is sea control of the entire South China Sea, building of artificial islands. In the early 1990s, Navy personnel were blowing up Chinese markers in the West Philippine Sea, even in Scarborough Shoal. In 1997, Philippine Navy Special Forces guys, Navy SEALs, were blowing up concrete steel structures in Scarborough Shoal. So we know it's part of their plan to establish features, artificial features in the West Philippine Sea, in the South China Sea. Today we have Subi Reef, we have Mischief Reef, Johnson, and the others, which are now fully militarized. Part of the plan, if we move upward north, is to do the same with Scarborough Shoal. So it is not far-fetched. It could be within their plans to slowly creep in, salami slicing, physically on the ground, while in the information domain, they start saturating the information environment with false narratives.
We've heard of that tactic, the salami slicing tactic, from a few of the other maritime experts, where you basically, they cut very thinly. Before you know it, they've taken the whole salami. But yung nature reserve specifically, in short, you're saying it may or may not happen. This is just the latest in their narrative, basically, is what you're saying.
Yes.
Okay.
We have to take it with a grain of salt. They have been known to say one thing, but do another. That's why I would like to highlight what our good S&D mentioned. They have a big trust deficit. They are not a reliable partner when it comes to discussions. And this is one of the examples of them giving out a false narrative. And for all we know, they are also trying to check how we would react to that. And the NSC and DFA, they are on top of the situation when it comes to making clear what the stand of the Philippines is.
And you raise a good point about this could be just for the internal audience too, right? This may not just, they're talking to their own people, not to the rest of the world.
Yes, because again, in an autocratic state, your grip on power should remain solid. The moment that your people start questioning your grip of power, you know, Arab Spring, what happened not too long ago. So the Chinese Communist Party would like to stir up a sense of nationalism because of what happened last August 11, to show the people that, you know, they are strong, they're fighting for the interest of mainland China.
So, Rear Admiral, I mean, you did say, no, na we should take this with a grain of salt. It could be just a false narrative by China. So, should we not be seeking aid from allies, the United States, or even regional allies?
When I say we take it with a grain of salt, we don't have to overreact to that.
Okay.
The NSC gave out a statement. DFA is preparing the appropriate protest from their side, on the diplomatic side. The AFP has never left the area. We have been there doing our regular maritime and air patrols. Coast Guard and BFAR, they're doing the Kadiwa or the Ayuda program to our fisher folks. We have to rely first and foremost on ourselves. Secondly, on international law. Number 3, on our partners and allies. If you notice, we have a lot of maritime cooperative activities in the West Philippine Sea. This is to show the world that while it's not targeted against any country, this is basically geared for the AFP to be able to elevate our capabilities. And we are doing all of this within the bounds of international law. So when we say international law, like-minded nations, MCA, these are all actions for us to be able to strengthen the capability of the AFP to perform our mandate of securing and defending our territory. And that includes Bajo de Masinloc.
So the AFP never left the area, kahit na China claims seized control of the Scarborough Shoal.
Yeah, we never left the area.
But,
we have our regular patrol plans by sea and by air.
It's just that sometimes they harass our boats and our helicopters. But you've also noticed an increase in the research vessels. What's going on there?
The research vessels, we keep track of all maritime traffic in our maritime domain, 360 all over the country. And for the month of August, we monitored a little over 16,000 vessels passing through our maritime domain.
16,000.
16,000.
Is that usual or unusual?
That's
normal?
That's normal.
Okay.
On the average, it would be somewhere close to 14,000
Okay.
passing within our maritime zones. Most of this would be maritime traffic, merchant traffic. Of this number, we would see there the PLA Navy, the Chinese Coast Guard, sometimes Chinese research vessels. And when it comes to research vessels, the Coast Guard is the main effort on that, because the main effort is the mandate to check, to validate,
Correct.
to confront, and to challenge. The Philippine Navy, the AFP, provide support to the Coast Guard. And there's been a noted presence of research vessels, especially in the northern part of the country.
What do you think they're doing?
Not only the research vessels, by the way, Regina and Pauline, no? But also the drones, submersibles.
Oo nga, we've reported on some
We
of
have
them.
reported that
Yeah.
before. That get washed ashore on this time of the year because of the weather. So it's on the rainy season that we see a lot of these submersible drones. These are designed to gather bathymetric data in the maritime environment, depth of water, salinity, oxygen content, and other important information that could have use commercially for education or scientific research. At the same time, this information may have military applications. So the presence of research vessels, of these drones, these submersibles, should be taken seriously. While UNCLOS is silent on that, different coastal states have different practices how to deal with research vessels. If it's for economic purposes, it's not allowed, because the coastal state should have jurisdiction.
Exclusive nga eh.
Exclusive or
economic
sovereign
zone.
rights
Yeah.
sa EEZ niya. If it's for military use, different countries would have different approaches for that.
Ano yung stand ng Philippines, sir?
I tried to check with our maritime law experts. We have no official stand yet on that. But the Coast Guard is doing its job of challenging and confronting all research vessels. The Navy, the Air Force, or air surveillance flights is supporting the Coast Guard in tracking and even challenging these research vessels. But we have to be concerned with them because the information they gather could have uses across a broad spectrum, different fields, to include the military field.
Rear Admiral, nabanggit nyo nga po na we should learn how to stand on our own, rely on ourselves, and some do say that the Philippines should assert its rights more forcefully. But how would you assess our capabilities right now? How far are we in terms of modernization?
Before we get there, I'd like to highlight the statement of the Commander-in-Chief, the President, yesterday, when he mentioned during the Manila Strategy Forum, our sovereignty is non-negotiable. We have taken a very strong stand. I always say this on record. We have taken a very strong stand in fighting for what is ours. We are a friend to all, a foe to none. How strong are we in terms of our modernization? Pauline, we are stronger today than we were yesterday, if I may address it that way. Meaning,
What does that mean, sir?
yeah, yung ating modernization program, which is at the purview of the Department of Defense, the Navy, the Air Force, the Army, we have submitted our plans for modernization. Deliberation, what to prioritize, how to acquire this capability, these are all at the table of DND. And we submit to the wisdom of DND what they will put forth in terms of what to acquire first, how to acquire this, when would this arrive. But I would say that the AFP is much, much stronger today, especially with the shift from internal security to external defense. We now have the capability to track almost the entire expanse of our maritime zones.
Much stronger today kahit nakulang yung budget. I said that. You didn't say it.
I can say that.
No, because from our perspective, you take a look at the NEP, the 2026 budget, and only 40 billion pesos was allocated for AFP modernization, which is just a small increase from last year. And then at the same time, here we are covering this massive flood control scandal, right, wherein billions were downloaded onto one district, 13 billion alone to Oriental Mindoro, which is not even a tier 1 city. At the same time, the AFP modernization is going on. So I know you can't answer questions about the budget, but I guess how are you guys making do in terms of prioritizing what we need? Ano yung nauuna?
Yeah, before we get there, I'd like to give a statement on what you just mentioned.
Okay.
Yeah. We are good with what we have.
Okay.
Given more, we can perform even better.
Okay.
And we have already given our plans for modernization. And we trust the leadership of DND, we trust the government. And there's a lot happening that doesn't come out. But the moment that these are delivered, accepted, and tested, then I believe it would make the Filipino proud that we have an armed force which is now almost at par with what a modern and multi-capable armed force could do. Now you asked about
Prioritization. How do you prioritize the programs?
Yes.
What equipment do you need, right?
the service at Navy, Air Force, Army. We submit this to GHQ. They deliberate on that. When the final pass is done, it's submitted to DND. And DND has their own process. They engage different countries. We have been very strong in defense diplomacy. If you notice, SOVFAs, VFAs, RAAs are being signed left and right. We are increasing our alliance building, so to speak. This includes acquisition, transfer of technology, subject matter expert exchanges. These include doing joint activities, transfer of information, hands-on exercises. All of this bodes well for us, a growing armed force.
So the transfer of technology, the sharing of expertise, at least those do not cost any money, is what you're saying.
Yes, a lot of these
we benefit from our partners.
Yes, a lot of these are non-material. This would include informing, training our human resource, giving our soldiers the hands-on opportunity to look at modern weapon systems, like in the news recently, the MRC, the Nemesis, the Typhoon, HIMARS. These are in-country for training purposes, and our men get the opportunity. This is, it's priceless to be able to train with a modern weapon system. That's not even ours. So in the event that the leadership would decide to get a particular equipment or capability, then if we have had already trained with them, that would mean the learning curve for us would be much, much shorter because we were already able to train in a similar system.
In short, once we're able to afford those equipment, the learning curve is much less steep.
I would say we could afford. But the prioritization...
Hindi daw sabi ni SND Teodoro, it's...
SND was referring to the timeline.
Yeah.
And the AFP support that statement because the modernization program, which goes by horizons, has been there since what, 1992, 1995?
Yes, it needs to be updated.
The world has changed.
Yes.
Technology has increased by leaps and bounds. And we now see different military capabilities that if we take time in acquiring, the moment they arrive, they may already be outdated.
Yeah. Admiral, what's going on at the Sandy Cay? I have to apologize. We haven't had a chance to focus on that because of this whole corruption issue. But tell us what's going on there.
Yes,
Meron bang other intrusions?
Sandy Cay, Sabina, Hasa, all other shallow water features in the West Philippine Sea. We have constant monitoring of them. The moment we see anything unusual that may indicate something different, like a prolonged presence of some maritime militia vessels, that could be, let's say, dumping, crash calls or something like that. We raise that to joint headquarters and to DND. But so far, we haven't noticed anything unusual yet. Their presence is there. Don't get me wrong, their presence is there. Their illegal presence has always been there.
Their presence meaning the Chinese vessels?
Yes, especially the maritime militia, the Chinese Coast Guard. The illegal presence has been there since 1992. But anything unusual that would point to an escalation, like dumping of crash corals, so far none has been observed.
Not in the last 2 months, because not after that flag planting incident.
Yes,
Remember
in
that,
Sandy Cay.
Yeah, which turned out to be untrue.
Yes.
Right? So there's also this information.
And
that
each time we get reports,
Oh.
Western Command,
Yeah.
under the good Admiral Torres, they send out patrols, an interagency component, BFAR, Coast Guard, the Navy, and even from the Academe.
So
be
we're
able to check.
constantly monitoring it.
Yes.
Okay, good to hear. We will leave the conversation there. That's all the time we have for today, I'm sorry. But thank you so much for talking to us, Rear Admiral Roy Vincent Trinidad, spokesperson for the West Philippine Sea.
All right, now in other news, Bicol Saro Party List Representative Terry Redon has found himself in a social media war with Senator Jinggoy Estrada. Last night, Senator Estrada posted an old yearbook photo of Redon and disgraced engineer Bryce Hernandez side by side, implying they have known each other for a long time. Estrada captioned the post with, "Safe kaya tayo sa kanila?" in hashtags such as "Batchmate sila" and "Investigation Reunion." Redon, who chairs the House Infrastructure Committee investigating the projects, called the post misleading and irrelevant. Redon admitted that he and Hernandez were batchmates in grade school, but that they were never classmates, nor was he a friend. What is more important, Ridon said, is for Estrada to explain the pictures he had with dismissed Bulacan District Engineer Henry Alcantara, who, as we mentioned, is now facing criminal and non-bailable complaints before the Ombudsman. Estrada had previously dismissed the photos, saying it is only normal for him to have pictures with other officials.
Another online exchange of words has broken out over the flood control mess, this time between a pro-Duterte influencer and Pasig City Mayor Vico Soto. In a Facebook post, vlogger Sas Sasot dared the Pasig mayor to name all those involved in the flood control scandal, saying, quote-unquote, "We want names, not motherhood statements and Connie Reyes on camera level drama." The last bit was an obvious jab at his mother, Connie Reyes. But Soto quickly replied, saying people are now more discerning which comments are organic and which come from ops. He went on, "Ano bang mali sa sinabi ko na gusto akong baliktarin ng mga boss nyo?" Soto has, of course, been calling out the Discayas even before the flood control controversy broke. He's been accusing all 9 companies linked to them of major tax deficiencies in Pasig and other LGU violations. At Tuesday's House hearing, the mayor called Sarah's husband, Curly, a liar right in front of his face.
And finally, caught in an emergency? Well, you only need to remember 3 numbers wherever you are in the Philippines, and that's 911. Our big picture tonight is the unified 911 hotline that's now live after its launch at the PLDT office in Manila earlier today. This single hotline connects callers 24/7 to law enforcement agencies such as the PNP and the Bureau of Fire Protection and even to local government units. The main command center located in Sampaloc, Manila aims to answer calls within 5 rings no matter the time of the day. Response time is targeted at 5 minutes or less if callers are able to provide their exact locations. There are also multilingual agents manning the unified 911 hotline, so anyone can call using their dialect.
Answer within 5 rings? Not
Yeah,
bad.
yeah.
That's a pretty
And
high
5
bar
minutes.
to hold them
Yep.
to.
We should try
5
it.
minutes. Let's call them now.
Pero today, marami daw prank callers eh, so
Pero
they were warned.
it's active now,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Okay, let me call it.
Right now?
Baka,
May time pa tayo.
baka past 5 rings before they answer. I'll put them
We'll do
in
it off
hot
mic.
water. But yes, it's good to hear that we now have a unified emergency call hotline.
It's
right?
easy to remember.
Because otherwise, if you have to remember whatever your city's hotline
Yep.
emergency number is, right? Which is very tedious. Okay, that's all this we have for the big story today, Thursday. Thanks for watching.
We are One News, all sides, all the time.
Have a good night.